Hi viewers, welcome back to the Adam Studio. Today we have another very special guest, Mr. M.R. Venkatesh, who is a chartered accountant, a very active political commentator. He has written a lot of books. You might have seen him in a lot of channels, debates around the politics that's going around us. So today we welcome him and talk about his new book that is going to hit the stands very soon. It's called Retaining Balance, The Eternal Way. Namaskaram, MRV sir.
Namaskar.
It's great to have you on my show.
It's a privilege for me to be along with you in your channel.
Thanks for your time today. So we'll start with a basic question. How did this thought come to your mind about writing this particular book, this particular topic?
A thought doesn't come and you don't diarize a thought. So you don't know when it actually originated. But if you say instinctively, I was drawn to this question as to why economics has been diversed from family, civilizational values, from so many other things that we take it for granted in a day-to-day life, but doesn't find it represented in the economics, the formal economics that we study. The second one was, of course, a series of lectures that I attended somewhere in 2001 along with Shri S. Gurumurthy ji, who had a profound impact, and I had read a lot about his articles, his monographs, and his comments, and I have had detailed discussions, dialogues with him. But the trigger for this probably was Linda U.S. book, which I quote in the preface, I purchased the book on 12 great economists, and the book was dedicated to her family. So I thought that she is going to talk about economics and family. But apart from the dedication page, there is not even a whisper about family in the entire book. So I thought that this is a time that we have to question family, culture, civilization, and how it pans out in the world of economics, or how the world of economics accepts these issues. So in a way, it is a critique, it's a challenge to the discipline of economics. So I thought this must be done. And to be fair, this is also, I would consider myself as some sort of a vague blueprint for right-wing economics. All that we are practicing, even market economics or Marxian economics, is basically Western economics, which, as I would say, that has its roots in Christendom. So my idea is to provide a right-wing, a blueprint for right-wing economics.
Got it, sir. Got it. So who has penned the foreword for this book?
It's my good friend, Mr. Arnab Goswami, was kind enough to pen the foreword for it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Lovely. What is the significance of the picture in the cover page of your book? It's blurred, looks like Swami Natarajar. So what can you talk about the significance of that?
Two things. Lord Nataraja, or Lord Shiva in his cosmic dance, as you know, is called Lord Nataraja, balances between destruction destruction and creation. He is a symbol between apocalypse and creation. Now, that is the ultimate balance that you can look at in any pictorial representation. And why is it blurred? Is because in the Indic society, nothing is absolute. We don't believe in absolutism in anything. What the Westerners may call it sacred, we may call it carnal. And what the Westerners may call it carnal may be sacred to us. So nothing is absolute for us. Everything is only relative. Everything is only rooted to certain fundamental principles. That's all. Rest all, you will see that it is always transitory, and it has got profound relativism tethered to it. So I thought, instead of giving a very definitive picture about Lord Nataraja, I thought, and I frankly, we got it from the internet, and after a lot of search, this type of, I wanted to have a blurred image. And that's how we stumbled upon this. And the author for whom I would have my, koti koti pranams for him, because I don't know, I tried to reach out to the author, we have not been able to. So I have also put it in my preface acknowledgements that this has been done by an unknown author. So when I meet him, I should thank him profusely for this. So I thought it represented the matter in the book in one go.
But that's really well thought through, right? It is a very deep concept also for that matter. So coming to some of the important tenets of your book. So you believe that families, civilization, and culture deeply impact the economic policies of a country or the economies of a country. Can you take us through your thoughts around these, each one of these?
Okay, if you put around a simple question, when did our ancestors, when did our forefathers transit from being an animal into Homo sapien, the man? When did culture begin? What is the mother of civilization? If you ask these questions, we may say that, okay, man started using fire, stones, axe, bricks, to hunt. Probably that was the start of, a culture or civilization. But to me, the institution of marriage meant that man got tamed from being an animal into a human being. Now, when I say marriage, I don't mean the polygamous variety. I mean the homogamous variety. And polygamy was basically a concept that will be linked to animals, because the alpha male in any animal group or pride or any other way you classify them, the alpha male, whether it is the ass or the lion, or whether it's the monkey or the zebra, you'll find that there is always an alpha male dominating the group. Now, man was also like that. Man had this alpha male concept, but somehow down the line, we realized that this alpha male thing is not working, and we shifted to a concept wherein the alpha male gives up his right or his ability to dominate his pride, wherein thereby his own other clan members, the male people, could go ahead and get the female. Now, in the sense, it is the most biologically important one, that an adult male should get an adult female to carry on the clan. But if one male monopolizes the available female, then there is a shortage of female for the male. Now, there are very great researchers studied in the branch of criminology that suggests that body crimes invariably are done by males between 18 to 30 when their testosterone levels are very high. Now, that is why, in our culture, in our traditions, whenever a man, an unmarried boy begins to start showing even the slightest of deviant behavior, the elders will be in the family would be, openly suggesting that he must get married, because marriage brings down that hormonal imbalance in a male to actually venture out and commit these crimes. So there is peace in the society, and once there is peace in the society, progress is an inevitable sequitur. So marriage has become too important for all of us to ignore. So unfortunately, we are ignoring marriage, especially the monogamous variety, and that's where we are getting stuck.
So you talk about family and marriage. Now, how does that directly impact our economics, say a country's economics?
Very simple, sir. Once there is peace and progress, automatically things will fall in place. Okay. Now, if you read, most of us tend to foo-foo chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna Vishada Yogam, and where we say that, look, Arjuna laments and, it is ridiculed. Arjuna is to the point ridiculed by commentators that here he was frightened, he was not ready to fight his own teachers, brothers, cousins, friends. So he threw up his arms and he laments. And then the whole narrative shifts to chapter 2, and then whereon Bhagavad Gita, Lord gives up his own advice to Arjuna and removes his confusion. But I have pointed out that in verses 36 to 45 of chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna raises some profound question. He says, war means able-bodied men will die, both sides. And there will be a shortage of men. Women will not get their partner. And women will have to marry out of, there will be more of women and less of men. And this will mean women will have to go astray. This will mean family traditions are broken. This will mean children are getting orphaned. So he between 36 to 45, with due respects to Lord Krishna, I found that in Bhagavad Gita, these questions are never answered. These are, I thought, a very fundamental question. Now, as a chartered accountant, I can raise question, I can audit it. I am not here to give an answer. I will leave it. I leave it for scholars to answer me. But I said, in my limited understanding, and the greatest of respect to Bhagavan Krishna, I found these questions are very profound, and I found no answer for these questions. So the important point is, right from Bhagavad Gita till today, family is so important, we know its importance, but it is ignored, not documented, or it is sidestepped, or when it comes to commercial expediency or political expediency, we tend to override it because somehow or the other we will settle it later because we take it for granted. But it is not, time has come that we cannot take it for granted, is my humble suggestion.
Understood. So you are saying that economic policies have to keep in mind the culture of the land as well as the civilization of the land. If you have to make good economic policies, you have to consider these. You can't just do ignoring these two important tenets also. You can't do good economic policies for a country successfully.
Absolutely, sir. You captured the entire thing in one sentence. I think it's a brilliant and succinct way of putting it across.
Okay. So again, culture, if suppose US, all right, the culture is very different, India is different. Now we can't apply the same economic policy that has worked in some other country into India. I've seen some politicians kind of getting a panel of economists from different other countries and trying to create policies or bring in policies in India. All right, is that going to work? Because our culture and civilization is very different from other countries.
Absolutely, that is the point. That is the point why, and in fact, I have pointed precisely this sentence in my book, that economic policies that are tested in some other countries don't work in some other countries. Why? And why is globalization, which 20 years back, 25 years back, which was touted as to be the end game in our evolutionary process, economic thought process, or a global finance destination point, finally has become some sort of a dirty word within 15 years, 20 years. And a person like Francis Fukuyama, who wrote about end of history and the last man in early 90s, now in 2015, just 15, 20 years later, or 25 years later, writes a mea culpa stating that I was wrong in believing that the history has come to an end. And I was too ignorant to understand that, too dumb to believe that history has come to an end. History cannot come to an end. It will go on evolving, and basics of evolving will be always there. So people like Francis Fukuyama, who mirrored the Western thought that history has come to an end, are now repenting. But see, our intellectuals who said that we will partake in globalization are silent that they have committed a huge blunder. Now, luckily today, we have a prime minister who doesn't talk about globalization, but the previous prime minister was a great fan of globalization. The previous finance minister was a great fan of globalization. There are many people, many intellectuals in this country who still believe and swear by globalization. But tell me whether China, Japan, or say even America, even Biden doesn't speak about globalization today. So globalization is formally not declared dead, but it is dead. It is well and truly dead. So you and I need to understand that the whole idea of globalization was monochromatization of the entire economic policy. It was a one-size-fits-all that was to be given to everybody, large corporates taking over businesses and large businesses running and destroying local entrepreneurs, and local entrepreneurs becoming employees in the businesses that their own forefathers carried on for traditionally for centuries. And this was what was touted to be your progress. The world has rejected it. Meaning culture and civilization are so important. They may not be flashy. They may not be alluring. They may not be like your five-star food, but they are like your grandmother's food. They are sustainable over a long run, and they know a knack of coming back, and they will adopt. They absorb the best of technology, but they take time, which I have dealt with in chapter 9 also, as to how businesses run by families may not give you spectacular growth during stock market boom. But when the stock market and economic depression happen, they are the people who come back fastest, and they are able to come back. That is why India is recovering faster from COVID second wave also. Because traditionally Indian economy is a family-driven economy, we are able to bounce back faster. And let there be a third wave, God forbid, but let there be a third wave. I'm sure we will all recede back. But once we come back out of the third wave, we will, bounce back that much sharply. So it is a natural byproduct of our civilization, not of any great economic thinking by any great economists outside of India.
Understood. So you have covered this in quite detail in your book, right? How these are interconnected.
All these, hopefully, sir, I don't know whether they are interconnected. It is for the reader to say that. Yeah, I have attempted to connect the dots and left it to the leader to judge me what I wanted to say.
Got it. So coming back to the family, in your preface, you have given that family is a balancer for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you take some examples?
See, I would put it this way. There is an individual excesses that always comes to the surface whenever we are atomized or we become individuals. But that, if you put it in a larger context of the family, there is always a counter argument that family suppresses individual initiative. Okay. So supposing a class 10 student suddenly wants to throw up and say that, look, I want to become a musician. In a traditional Indian family, they say, no, you should take it up. You cannot give up employment. You have to be secured. You can't be on just in music. It may not be a paying career or lifelong. But you will see musicians coming up. You will see cricketers coming up. You will see people, coming up in sports, in music, in so many other things. Ditto with the world of business. Now, everybody cannot become a government clerk. Now, there are something like 11 crore business units in India, apart from being farmers. 11 crore employing around 15-17 crore of people all across India, which are your cycle repair shop or your small restaurant, the halwai or a tea kada, whatever it is. These are the people who are employed. Now, if the best way to say and give them the safest option is to go and become a government employee, but they have not chosen that. The family has given them capital. The family has protected them during downturn, and this downturn happens in every business, in every cycle. Now, when COVID happens, the people from Bangalore were walking up to Bihar and to UP in the hot sun. Now, why should they go to that place from where they migrated for a greener pasture? Because they know that if they go back home, it is home, wherein it may not be their own father or mother. It may be their greater family, the chachas, the bhatijas. All these fellows will come together to protect them. They know somehow or the other the bailout will happen. That is why they have taken the huge risk of taking a walk for 2,000 kilometers. And that itself is a demonstration that during crisis, the best insurer is your family.
Yeah. Hmm.
That we saw last year.
Exactly.
And that is what I would like to say, that look, family cannot be ignored. Family should not be ignored. Family is the one that will be your chief drive. And consequently, for all your economic policies, make family as your important segment. And then you decide whether family as a whole will take care of the individual or not. To answer a very precise question, family is a balancer between several things, between an individual excess and also an individual rectitude, or if he fails to take an initiative also, the family will push him. There are several families will push people to say, take to business, do things, do that, do this. There are families which will also don't do this because this is too much. This is not something that we can observe. So family is an auto balancer working 24/7 by 365.
Understood. But how can governments, for framing their economic policies, influence the family mindset? Because as you said, some families will have this outlook. Some families will have some other outlook. But how can you frame one common economic good policy for the country in such a case?
No, the first thing is government has to get out of so many businesses. Government has no business to do certain things and arrogate itself to believe that it has got the wisdom for your family and my family. And that is what is the problem, that we have spawned an omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient state. That is the crux of the issue, that we need to roll back on this model of government that we have spawned. Even Narendra Modi began by saying minimum government, maximum governance. But look what he has done. He has spawned more schemes, more programs. He has spawned more ministries. He has given more laws. Finally, see, we don't have the bandwidth to deal with it. So this is what I believe is that we are crucially missing. And the only way that government can help families is to get out of several other issues that it thinks it has got the monopoly knowledge of managing affairs of the country.
Got it. Very nicely put. So coming to, say, in some ways, a little controversial point in your preface. It talks about the Constitution, all right? And it's quite bold also, which is very much like you. So it's really good. It's really good. I really appreciate it. So you're saying, I'll just read it out. The framers of Indian Constitution who encapsulated the various fundamental rights, there are some other words after this, strangely ignored our civilizational emphasis on duties. Yes. And connected to the Constitution, you also are adding in some other place, it inadvertently thrusts Christendom, broken self. Right? So can you elaborate on this? So what is your moot point here? And are you saying that the Constitution ignored some very important tenets?
I'm not saying this.
Okay.
It is Mahatma Gandhi who said this. Okay. And if you look at Hind Swaraj, unfortunately, all of us have forgotten Mahatma Gandhi, Hind Swaraj, and what was promised to us. Right. After independence. After independence, we were not promised a constitution the way it is. Probably it's a byproduct. We were promised a Ram Rajya. Okay. Got it. First, the second thing. Now, what is this constitution? I require a few minutes to elaborate, and this is very important to understand. I have charged that this constitution is a Christian construct. It may be secular in character, but it is born out of Christian theology. Now, when originally the nation state were conceived, somewhere in the 16th, 17th century, there was a great philosopher called Thomas Hobbes. And he has written a book called Leviathan. And this Hobbesian thought that all men are bad, all men are brutish in nature, they need to be controlled, they need to be somehow or the other fettered through an omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient state is the dominant view of Hobbes. Now, cut to 21st century, we have a book called Born Bad by Charles Boyce. Now, Charles Boyce brings out a very important fact that most Western philosophers scientists, theorists, economists. And he begins with Thomas Hobbes. He includes Karl Marx. He includes Richard Dawkins, one of the greatest evolutionary biologists. He includes Adam Smith, the greatest economist. Across all disciplines, they believe in this Christian thought of a broken self. Broken self means since Adam and Eve committed a sin, as per Christian theology, all of us are born sinners and we carry the sin to our grave unless we are redeemed by Jesus Christ. The Christ is the only redeemer. So you can't redeem yourself by any good act or any good amount of service to the society or whatever you do. And you are a broken self. And so the outside agent, the Christ, has to come and do the salvation part. Whereas, and this was carried out to the formation of the government, where you are supposed to be dirty, you are supposed to be foul, you are supposed to be violent, you are supposed to be criminal, you are supposed. The fundamental assumption is that man is brutish.
Okay.
So you require, instead of Christ in Christian theology, you require a very strong government. Now, when the strong governments were formed, then they realized that the man was being, hanged for even the minor punishments. Man was being brutalized. So they said, look, we also, then the human rights part of it started spawning, and that comes in as your fundamental rights in Part 3 of your constitution. So first is the state itself is a Christian construct, the way it is, and the fundamental rights are a byproduct. That is why in 1946 or 47, one Mr. Huxley of the United Nations Human Rights, some magazine or something, was calling or inviting Mahatma Gandhi to write a column on fundamental rights. He said there is nothing called fundamental rights. So Mahatma Gandhi says very, very rightly that I have learned from my old but illiterate mother that there is no rights without corresponding duties. So and look at what the constitution. Unfortunately, Gandhiji was shot dead by 48 January, and by 50, when we had the constitution, we forgot Mahatma Gandhi and what all he wrote in Hindu Swaraj, what all he promised, what all was his cherished idea. And we got a constitution that only talked about fundamental rights, and these fundamental rights were interpreted by courts to say that we are a welfare state, and they have started increasing the scope of fundamental rights, but at the same time the scope of the government has also got enlarged. So on both sides there is a spawning, but contrast this with what we traditionally believe. The original name of Mahabharata is called Jaya.
Oh, is that? Okay.
Yeah, Jaya means victory over self. And that means you perform your duty. See, you may not understand Bhagavad Gita in its full dimension. I definitely don't do. But one sloka that all of us can adhere and have immediate resonance would be the sloka that talks about duty. Karmanyavadhikarasya ma phalechu kadachana. Every Indian would find instant recognition, instant resonance. But we are a duty-bound society, but a right-based constitution. So that is why I say that there is a dichotomy. And we are Bharatiya when we perform our duty. We are Indians when we talk about our rights. So that is why I go one step further and take probably a plea by 100th year of our independence. We must have a duty-based constitution which completely revisits the existing constitution. And we begin to write de novo, not tinker, not add, not amend. De novo, we say what the government's duty will be. What will be my duty? And a citizenry duty should be corresponding to the or complementing the duty of the state. And that is how we will have to write a duty-based constitution, not this right-based. The right of the government is to collect taxes, right of the government is to enforce law, right of the government is to do this, and the right of the citizen is to fundamental rights, free speech. This doesn't work. It only pits the citizen against the government.
Yeah.
That is why we are
that.
having,
Yes,
we are having a very, very peculiar situation where citizenry is in war with the state because of civilizational values.
Hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense. Actually, you covered my next question also. And that's the fault line between the Indian who swears by his constitutional right versus Bharatiya who adheres to his duties. So you
Exactly.
already elaborated on that piece. Okay. So that's a very interesting way of looking at it. And definitely, I think people who read your book will start understanding where you're coming from. And that makes sense in several ways.
Yeah.
So you're also saying Ram Rajya is more of Rajya, less of Ram. Can you elaborate on that? That's a very interesting statement in your preface.
See, the Ram Rajya is not a slogan. Ram Rajya is something that we need to understand. It is not mythical, it is not religion, it is not utopian. It is rooted to our civilizational values. Now, when many of us or all of us start performing our duties, the government will shrink and it will have a residuary role. And the more the government shrinks, the more the prosperity, the more the reward it is for the ordinary citizens. Now, if you start driving properly on the roads, there is no need for traffic signals and there is no need for traffic constables. Now, COVID taught us a very important thing between first wave and second wave. When the first wave came down, we said, okay, let us all go and enjoy. Without masks, we were careless, we were reckless. And when it came back, we again started blaming the state. And why did we blame the state? Because the state said, I will protect you from COVID. The state cannot protect us from COVID. We need to protect ourselves from COVID by using exacting standards of hygiene. We have to see that our entire surroundings are properly done. We have wear our mask, go wherever we go, we wash our hands, and the COVID protocol. I don't want to elaborate. But can we blame, whether it is the state government or central government, can we blame for me catching COVID? Now, if that is so, then your answer will automatically follow what is Ram Rajya. When you take care of yourself, it is Ram Rajya.
Perfect.
Of course, in Ram Rajya, Ram was there. But the more emphasis was on Rajya, governance. As the government shrinks, governance should improve. Government must be a take a residuary role. It must only be on a limited scale. Taxes must be brought down. Welfare must be brought down to the barest minimum to help the needy. And it must be only to see that people are trained and gained to, are made to get employment or generate employment. They must not be mere vote banks that you give them some doles and keep them unemployable so that you can use them during the next elections. So this is what is called as Ram Rajya. So this is what we need to look at. We cannot keep our people in slums and look at the carelessness that has set into all of us. We take slums for constant. We take illiteracy as a given. We take poverty below 30. You may have a debate about 30% or 60% or 20%. The fact of the matter is 80 crore people out of 130 crore people are being given virtually free ration by this government for the last 12-18 months. A spectacular thing. But it also shows the extent of poverty in our country. And do you think welfare schemes are going to bail out people, or the people have to bail themselves out of their hole that they have dug themselves in?
Exactly.
So that is Ram Rajya.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
So it is not an esoteric concept.
Yep.
It is a practical concept for a country like India. In a country like Singapore, you can give doles to 10 lakh people out of 40 lakh people and say that I have bailed out 10 lakh people out of poverty. In this country, 80 crore people are below the poverty line. How are you going to do it with doles? And what are the type of doles that we are looking at? Free TV and free cycle and free this and free that.
Correct, correct. And that's what leads to Rajas, Tamas, that we say, right? all
Yes.
this laziness and all that, which is what our forefathers already
You will
wrote.
be, you will be shocked, sir. One,
Yeah.
I don't want to name, but a Chief Justice of a High Court, a couple of days back said that even if a man is lazy, it is the responsibility of the state to feed him 3 times.
Right.
Now I have no problem. But where does the money for the state comes in? It comes from taxes of those people who are working and who are industrious.
Exactly.
And you are transferring wealth from the hands of the most industrious to the most lazy through the most corrupt and the most inefficient system called governance or the government.
Right.
And why should we, the honest people who are industrious, I don't mind paying money to see that my brothers who are in poverty come out. But let it be a society-driven one instead of a state-driven one. We will have more responsibility.
Totally makes sense. Now, while I was talking to you, I was kind of thinking and relating this to the Vedas. The Vedas talk about our duties. Right?
Yes.
Relating to environment, they don't talk about, okay, this is your right, exercise it, this is your whatever fundamental right. But it says these are your duties towards family, towards kids, towards your environment, towards your country, and all that, right? Across the board. I think what you say is very much linked to that too, right?
Sir, where you take any of these documents of our ancient civilization, Ramayana, Mahabharata, or you take any of these grand epics, grand religious texts that we talk about, these are not religious in that singular sense that it is not authored by anybody. It doesn't prescribe rituals. So you want to take it, you take it. You don't want to take it, you don't take it also. But the wisdom embedded in these texts, and that is why, in fact, I have only touched upon 2 slokas of Mahabharata, of Bhagavad Gita, Karmanyavadikaritya and Yada Yada Hi Adharmasya. Even that I found it difficult to swallow because each one is contradicting the other. When you say you do things and don't really worry of the results, on the other hand, he says Dharma will go down and I will have to come and re-establish Dharma. So why should I work? Anyhow, it is going to go down and he will have to come and take care. So I can be supinely indifferent. That also he doesn't allow. So you see, so this is the most agnostic religion, if at all you call it as one. So the point I'm trying to emphasize and rework on this is that at no point in time, we have to be squeamish about our civilizational past. There is too much of wisdom embedded. Of course, it has to be contemporarized. Yes, we cannot say that we will. We need to use modern gadgets, technology. That's okay. That's temporal. But to ignore our past, our civilization, and look at only these things as growth and these things as the internet and the Zoom technology of software as something, the destination point that we have reached in our development is laughable for a civilization where people could travel space and time both in nanoseconds. So this technology or idea itself, whether they traveled or not, I don't have an evidence. But the thought that I can travel time and space itself was there amongst our ancient rishis.
Exactly.
So that itself shows to what extent we must be proud about our civilization. Definitely. We must definitely be guided by the civilizational wisdom and past and see what best we can take it to contemporize it. That is the purpose of retaining balance.
Perfectly said. And so if you have to summarize what the government has to do or take, say, 3 steps, okay, what would you say based on your book?
See, I have never thought about this question or answered it. What
from an implementation standpoint, sorry for interrupting, from an implementation standpoint,
okay,
what do you think the government?
I would instead of saying 3, I would reduce it to 1.
Done.
And that would be rollback government.
Okay, understood.
Okay, instead of saying 3 different things, it is one and the same, that you roll back government and become a small but very spectacular, efficient one. roll back the debt. So consequently, your role will be there. So you'll roll back your debt. So consequently, you roll back taxes. So there will be more of public and private initiatives that will flower. And when people know that government will not do certain things, people will automatically be compelled to do certain things. And that will unleash a power within our economics that will make India a true superpower. India cannot become a superpower with Indian government, but India will be a superpower with Bharatiya civilization, Bharatiya civilizational thought. And that is what the world is waiting. See, the world is also between 2008 and 2018. The world has contracted something around $80 trillion of debt to produce per year $16 trillion of extra GDP. So for $1 of GDP, for $5 of debt, $1 of GDP is produced world over. World is sinking in the wallowing in debt. Okay, whether it is government debt, corporate debt, or individual debt. Banks are finding it difficult. It is only evergreening that is happening. And don't think that Indian banks only are facing this NPA problem. World over, everybody is facing the NPA problems. And we don't know the answer for this. And government taxes, if you look at Scandinavian countries, some of them are charging at 50-55% of income as income tax, and tax to GDP ratio in some of these countries is as high as 60%. America, it's close to 40%. Britain is very high. Japan is very high. So they are transferring wealth from the hands of the people into the hands of the government. For what? We need to answer these questions. It is not that we should not tax. So don't think that I am saying that abolish tax. I am saying that abolish government. I am not. That is why I always say nothing is absolute in this country.
Right.
So that is why you can now see why the Nataraja is blurred. So exactly. I am saying, yes, there must be a Nataraja, but he must be blurred. It must be a Ram Rajya, but it must be very low key.
Right.
Makes sense. That's the point, sir.
Totally. And last question. Do you think this book will be relevant for the politicians of today? And will BJP and Congress take it forward, take these inputs that you're giving them, take it forward and implement them?
See, my plea would be that, yes, every author would like to see his book being read by people. And even if people come and say it was totally bad, I have no issues as long as they have read it and they said, yes, these are the points I disagree. So I would first make a plea through your channel that let your viewers buy it. It is already available in Amazon and at some discount, obviously till the month end, because we are doing the pre-pub offer and we are going about it. But be that as it may, if any politician reads it, he will understand that there is a certain clash, a dichotomy, a fault line that I have highlighted between Indian and the Bharatiya, between the civilizational duties and the constitutional rights. Now, it is time that we think about these things. Sit down and come to a conclusion as to what is it that we need to do to address these things.
So clear. Yeah, that's very relevant, very important. Very important.
So whether it is politician of the Congress hue or the BJP hue, that's slightly different. But if intellectuals, scholars, Madhadipatis, Pidadipatis, businessmen, economic teachers, political commentators, media commentators, many people come together and start this idea that we need to redraw the constitution de novo that will suit our civilizational aspiration, which is Ramarajya, on prosperity and on equality, equity to all. There is no compromise. There the Nataraja is not blurred. But the manner of achieving it, I think we need to give a totally different try. The next 20-25 years, we are approaching the diamond or the platinum jubilee of our independence next year. Probably 25 years from now on, if we are able to rewrite the constitution de novo and bring in with the civilizational rights and bring out the social morality concept embedded in our society, I think we would have done a great deal in this particular visit to this planet.
Perfect. Perfect. Wonderful, sir. Very interesting thoughts. And I'm really waiting to buy the book. Definitely. And I urge all my viewers to please buy the book. Give your thoughts to sir. All right. So that, see, at the end of the day, as a community, we all have to be thinking Indians, I call my series, MRV sir. All right. So we all have to keep on thinking of where we are going and exchange those thoughts. And these kind of books are really going to help kindle our thoughts in the right direction. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So since you use the word Kindle, it's also available in Kindle version.
Superb way to end our session.
Okay. And I would also urge you personally, sir, not that I don't want to gift you a copy, but always it helps somebody buys a book. It gives you so much of pleasure.
Yes, yes.
And I request you to say, order it in Amazon. And also kindly tweet it in your Twitter handle that
definitely do.
I will all be, and this I would say is my first step to probably do something. The second and the third version of the book, in the sense I want to write sequiturs for this, and probably in a year or two when I get some more time. But because this took a heavy toll on me writing it, so I thought let me give a small breather. And we will write a detailed second one, which will be either probably enhancing this book itself or write a sequitur for that. So I seek the blessings of elders and prayers of all your viewers to see if I can translate that idea as we go across.
Definitely we'll do that, sir. And we'll all be supporting that. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. Namaskaram.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Namaskar.